Here's how I train to do 100 push-ups in a row. I need to establish two things. First, I need to test my max push-ups before beginning the challenge. I would say I have some experience just casual weightlifting in the gym, some basketball when I was growing up, so I don't think I'm a complete beginner to push-ups and general calisthenics. I'd say I'm probably at more of an intermediate level. So this challenge shouldn't be a problem, right? Right? I also need to clearly define what completing this challenge looks like. So obviously, I need to complete 100 push-ups, but I want to make sure that my form is perfect throughout. So that means my back is relatively straight, my chin is close to touching the floor, and I absolutely cannot rest my knees against the floor until I'm done with 100 push-ups. As long as I put in the time and effort, I don't think this challenge should be a problem. Really, the biggest concern I have with these kinds of endurance challenges is the risk of injury. Hopefully that doesn't happen. So where should I start? I did a bit of Googling, and I found the best way to increase the number of reps for a given exercise is using a technique called greasing the groove. And usually you see people doing this for pull-ups or push-ups. It basically involves doing a small number of reps at regular intervals throughout the day, instead of doing it in one big chunk. So for example, for me, I would do about 30% of my max push-ups, so that's about 15, perhaps every hour on the hour. It's important to not overexert yourself using this method because you're not really giving your body a chance to recover. So if you push too hard, you might get injured, which we don't want. I just need to keep my rep count low and be consistent. And every week, I'm going to test my max again to make sure that I'm getting closer to my goal of 100. The first week went pretty well. I did this routine of sprinkling push-ups throughout the day, and at the end of the week, I tested my max. And there seemed to be some improvement, so I was quite happy with that. It seemed like I was on the right track. To be honest, in the beginning, greasing the groove wasn't that difficult. All I needed to do was just drop down every hour and do a few push-ups. And since I work from home, that isn't really such a big deal. Of course, I wouldn't do it if I was going out for dinner with a friend at a restaurant, for example. I'm weird, but I'm not that weird, I think. I continued this routine for several weeks, and things seemed to be going pretty well. My max was increasing consistently, and I was seeing some progress. But after a month of this routine, I started to get this feeling. Oh God, has it already been an hour? I don't really want to do push-ups right now. Do I really have to do this? And I just have to force myself to do it. Starting something new is always fresh and exciting, but as time erodes that novelty, pushing through and finishing what you started is really what matters most.
Do it! Just do it!
The weeks were flying by, and I was stacking those reps and hitting new records every single week. However, one day, my worst fear materialized. I started to get a pain in my shoulder.
No! God, please, no! No!
At first, this pain only appeared when I was doing push-ups. But after a while, it started to linger even though I wasn't doing any physical activity. I suspect it was probably a rotator cuff injury from my old weightlifting days that I had reignited. And this was so frustrating because I knew I was so close to my goal of 100. Do I push forward and try to get to the finish line, or do I take a step back and try to recover before getting back into the challenge? I decided to take a break since pushing through injuries can sometimes result in something permanent, and I definitely didn't want that. So we're going to take one step backwards, but eyes on the prize. Even though I had stopped doing push-ups, I made sure to keep my shoulders mobile by regularly stretching them and moving them so as to aid in the recovery. Fast forward by a month, and I tried doing push-ups again. Fortunately, there was no more pain. So, I was back in business. I tested out my max and it had dropped a little bit, but I wasn't too phased because the most important thing was that we were back on track, baby. The routine continued as before. I was laser focused on my goal, and I knew that with every single rep, I was getting closer to it. I actually fully expected to plateau at some point, but I didn't. So I guess greasing the groove really does work. But one thing became apparent as I continued training for this. The difficulty became more mental than physical after around the 65 rep mark. After 65 reps, my body starts burning, my arms, my shoulders, and my chest, and it starts to become a mental game. It doesn't matter if my max was 75 or 80, it was always around the 65 mark that it started to become a mental battle. Finally, one day, I tested my max and I was so close to 100. I felt like I was ready to try out for 100. I mean, I felt like if I really pushed for it and just went for it and go all out, I could probably get 100. So I let myself rest for a day, and then I went to the park to prepare to do the 100 push-ups. I felt a little nervous. It's that kind of anxiety you get before doing something you know is going to hurt. But I was so ready to get this over and done with because I'm so fucking done with push-ups by this point. I put on a Metallica track and off I went. My body is telling me to stop. Everything was hurting like crazy. I told myself, one more rep. Then one more rep. Then another. I hit 100. But I wasn't going to stop there. It's go big or go home. I ended with 110 reps. It felt like an eternity, but it was finally over, and I just felt this wave of immense relief. All in all, it took months to train for this challenge, and I was just glad it was over, and I could finally say, mission complete. This was a tough challenge, and there are definitely better ways to get fitter or stronger, but it was a great test of commitment, physical endurance, and the ability to push the body and the mind just a little bit further. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching.